president back in 20.
There, but for those that didn't hear it, Mayor Liccardo is the mayor of San Jose. I think we all have seen him before. I'm just going to go down the list here of the BART people, BART directors. So could we start?
It's still not coming through. Okay, my bad. I'll come back in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go to Director Ames.
Morning. Yes, I've been on the board for 3 years. I cover South Hayward, Union City, Newark, and Fremont, District 6. I'm a licensed civil engineer, and I'm also the vice president of Tri-City Ecology Center and chair of Save Our Hills. I'm an environmentalist and promoting public transit all the time. So, thank you.
Public transit advocates. Those are always good things. Next, I'm going to go to Director McPartland. Is he here?
Chair, I think he's still yet to sign on. So
okay, I was just going down the list. Let's go ahead and go. We're going to go to Director Rayburn then.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Robert Rayburn. I was elected to the BART board representing District 4, Oakland, Alameda, and City of San Leandro in 2010. I also work on the Capital Corridor Governing Board.
Awesome. And then next we'll go to Director Saltzman.
Morning, I'm Rebecca Saltzman. I've been on the BART board for 9 years, and like Director Rayburn, I serve on the Capital Corridor Board along with Director Brawless there. And I helped start this committee when I was board president back in 2017, when we realized there was a provision in the agreement that said we needed to have this committee and needed to meet regularly, but I haven't been on the committee for several years, so happy to be back on it and meeting again.
Awesome. So I think that's the introduction of all the directors that we have here. And with that, I think we're going to have a chance for the two different general managers to give us some opening comments. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with the VTA director, Carolyn Ganot.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I am happy. Many of you I've known before. I have been away for 2 years, went to Utah Transit Authority to be their executive director, but I came back in July, and I'm happy to be back here at VTA in my new role as the general manager. As many of you know, I was closely involved in the delivery of Phase 1 of VTA's BART to Silicon Valley program, and I'm delighted to see the successful progress we have jointly made on the program. And of course, the biggest event to date has been the opening of the first extension to Milpitas and Berryessa, and I was incredibly proud to see the successful completion of the enormous amount of work that went into this milestone. You know, over the last year, VTA has, as all of the transit agencies have done, has sort of weathered the pandemic, and over the last 18 months, we've also had a major cybersecurity attack, and then the quite horrific event on May 26th that's pretty much shook VTA to its core. But we are moving forward. I'm happy that our light rail is up and running and moving, now able to make that connection in Milpitas, which is critical to BART and our services to carrying the students back and forth, our commuters, our residents in our county. So I'm really happy to see that. And it's been a good partnership. And as we move forward and sort of, I would say, sometimes it's recovering from everything that happened. Some of it's going to be re-energizing and reinventing how we go forward. But I look forward to doing that with BART. We have a great partnership. You know, we've made major progress on Phase 2. We anticipate receiving notification from FTA on the status of our expedited project delivery application in the next few weeks. And all indications from the FTA are positive, and we are looking forward to hearing from them soon. Please let me express my personal thanks for the ongoing support of BART staff, and especially the continued commitment of the BART board in moving, really bringing this project and completing it to San Jose, to downtown San Jose, and over to Santa Clara. I also just want to say, I look forward to working with Bob Powers and our teams working closely together. Bob and I worked very closely to try to deliver phase one in different roles. Now it's great to be working with him as well as the BART general manager. So I really look forward to continuing this partnership and moving on to phase two as we continue to hear from VTA and get this major project funded. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Before we go to Bob Powers, I just wanted to say I think we now have Director McPartland. He was over in the public section. I think we've got him now into the panelist section. Is that correct? And Director McPartland, would you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
I'd be delighted. I was wondering why I never saw my picture and somehow couldn't turn my microphone on or off. I'm grateful to be here. I'm serving my fourth term. I think I am the longest-serving BART board member. My background is in the fire service. I'm an emergency manager. I'm also a retired United States Army colonel.
All right, great. Good. Now we've got everybody in the right part of the meeting section here. So now I'd like to go ahead and just open it up to the BART General Manager, Bob Powers, and see if he's got some opening comments.
Thanks, Chairperson Hendricks. So Bob Powers, I'm the General Manager at BART. I wanted to say a couple of things. First, you're going to hear from a couple of folks today, but I just wanted to thank, there's 5 people I wanted to thank starting off this. So Takis, Carl Holmes, Shane Edwards, Lawrence Farrow, and Krishna Devi. And so they really have, their leadership on this, Chairperson Hendricks, their approach to how we're going to go about delivering phase 2, and you're going to hear about these design criteria manuals. Very thoughtful, very forward-leaning, and they've taken lessons from phase 1 and made sure that they're implemented in phase 2. And I just can't thank and there's other people, but those 5, and their staffs have just been critical, and you and I talked a little earlier. I think the project's in a great position right now, a very strong position, and it's very encouraging. And those 5, their commitment to open, frequent, transparent communication, that's going to be the key, for success on this project. So that's one piece I wanted to say. Second piece, so Carolyn Bernat, I'll call her Carolyn, she and I were intimately involved in phase 1, whether it was bringing it to revenue service or getting the O&M agreement signed and across the finish line. So we have a history of coordinating and communicating and problem solving. So that relationship is there. And so I think we're in a good position, Chairperson Hendricks. And just let me say a little bit about BART. So, we're basically back. We put out on the street with our board pre-COVID level service. Maybe a little bit at nights we need to get back to and on Sundays, but basically for this conversation, we're, pre-COVID level service. And that was a very strategic decision by the BART board, with consultation with me and others, about what public transit means to an economy's recovery and what public transit means to the communities that we serve, and many folks not having any other option but public transit, and we need to be there. And our ridership, Commissioner or Chairperson Hendricks, is coming back. We're pushing, 27, 28%. We're 120,000, where we were at 410 a daily. We dropped to 6%, and now we're pushing routinely between 25 and 30%. And just a little note for all the elected officials here: we're seeing weekends, Saturday and Sunday, really recovering quite much quicker than the weekday, and that's a very strong market for us there. With the leadership of Rebecca Salzman and John and Liz and Robert on the call here, we've got this Progressive Policing Bureau, which I hope you're tracking on, Chairperson Hendricks. That's getting more folks in the system, not armed folks, but ambassadors, crisis intervention specialists out in the system, riding the system. And when I'm out in the system every Wednesday, we are starting to hear from our riders that they're seeing this presence in the system, and it's a good thing. So I think that translates well into bringing on phase 2. And I just look forward to this board, this partnership board meeting regularly, and the relationship with Carolyn and Takis and the two teams. And I think we're in a good position. So I'll stop there, Commissioner Hendricks.
No, that's great. I think it's as I mentioned, the positive comments, and I think your enthusiasm and stuff is quite contagious on how things are going. Another thing I just want to mention, I've been in several discussions, and as it relates to transit and being able to bring public transit back, it's not a chicken and an egg thing. We know
right.
What has to happen first is you have to get the service out there to create the opportunity for people to go ahead and use it. So I think we see that across the board with all the transit agencies around the Bay Area here. Okay, so now we've all introduced ourselves. We've gotten some opening comments from our general managers. I'm going to go ahead and go to the public comment section, and let's see if our public has any comments that they would like to go ahead and share with us. Elaine, could you go ahead and let our speakers in, and each speaker will get up to 2 minutes.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Before we move on to the public speakers, I wanted to note for the record that we received written comment from Roland Lebron, and that's been included in the online agenda packet. So the order of the speakers would be Tessa, followed by Blair, then Roland. Tessa, please begin speaking whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the 2 minutes. We really appreciate that. More is better. Hearing from the public is very important, as the democratic process is so critical because our political process is so broken by its bundling with corporations and greed and to the political agenda, as we have seen with our climate crisis. And anyway, so I'm very concerned about the movement forward with BART when I'm hearing from Roland and David Dayton in San Jose, who's been really working on explaining what's going on with BART, and a lot of bad things I see are happening from what they're exposing to me in terms of safety. And we've had those issues. We've known that there was a safety issue in terms of the single bore, and we're not addressing that. And then the issue with the environmentalists saying that economically and in terms of our climate crisis, we should not be going to Santa Clara. And the impacts on my neighborhood, living on Stockton Avenue with fans, and the poor outreach of VTA, the horrible outreach of VTA to our community, where I had to scream and yell to even talk about these vents that were going to be put in our neighborhood, and they did such a poor job. But the issue is really going to Santa Clara, spend that $1 billion to when we're in such a need for real solutions, that we should not be dealing with economic gain for the construction workers and things like that. It needs to be all about solving our climate crisis, and so much more would be happening when we're digging these big tunnels with cement we shouldn't be using that have so much greenhouse gases. So we really have to rethink the plan and limit it, like we have to do all our fossil fuels. To just have it go to Diridon is how the BART should be.
Okay, thank you. And our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Blair Beekman. Blair, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. It is being reported Southwest airline pilots offered a serious walkout last weekend. They are not against the current vaccine mandate of their airlines. They simply wanted a better negotiation process first. To speak to bureaucratic good practices, in the city of San Jose, where I am from, I think we are all seeing a scene at this time in how to create a continued, open, honest, good dialogue for all sides about the science and technology of the vaccine process, the continued use of masks, and how we can all better understand what can be the spread of COVID-19 this fall. Open public policies and accountability with technology can very much help facilitate a continued good dialogue of the COVID-19 vaccine process this fall, I feel. I hope San Jose city government workers can be respected if they have honest fears and do not want to take current available vaccines. As I think we're all learning, there can be interesting options available and developing for all sides, and that can still very much respect community health and safety concerns this fall and winter in the Bay Area. Good luck how we can continue to talk about this issue this fall with all our local governments throughout the Bay Area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Roland. Roland, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I was not ready for 2 minutes. But let me just summarize where we are right now. Phase 1 is $2.5 billion over budget. That's more than 100% if you include debt service. Phase 2 EPD funding caps federal funding at 25% of project costs, which are currently estimated at close to $7 billion. And we already have evidence that some of the Phase 2 costs are not being reported, just like they were not being reported in Phase 1. The consultants have committed a total of $4 billion of local sales tax measures, including $2 billion in Measure A and $2 billion in Measure B. But right now, there is no debt capacity left in Measure A because of the cost overruns Phase 1. The tunnel engineer in charge of the project has got a background in small diameter utility tunnels, including the PUC tunnel under the bay and I think it's a sewer project in San Francisco. That's how he knows about single bowl tunnels. I'm just going to touch very briefly on what's on your letter, because essentially what happened is that last year at the December meeting, both boards gave very clear directions to staff about what the next steps were supposed to be. And they basically have been ignored. Nothing has happened. So Amberley Cargo's constituents took the matter in their own hands, come up with an alternative, which is in your package, that essentially resolves all the issues, resolves all the costs, restores equity between downtown east and downtown west, and also allows us to have entrances on both sides of Santa Clara, just like we had back in 2007 EAR, without any impact on downtown whatsoever. And that's all I got for you right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Alida. Alida, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Glenn Hendricks and members. Alida Dupree for the record. My pronouns are she and her. Thank you for the welcome. And thanks for doing the Pledge of Allegiance today. It means a lot to me. You know I love a good public meeting. Can't seem to get enough. And this project is very important to me, and I can't say that I have a long resume with you. I am a product of New York City. I was born in New York City, as was my sister, my parents, and my grandparents. And while I don't have a long time with you, I have experience with the New York City subway since 1970. And in the fall of 1980, for the first time, I visited Grand Central Terminal, the world's largest railroad station, discovered lots of things bigger than myself. And so what I see in this system is a way for me to access the South Bay more easily than before. And don't get me wrong, I love the Capitol Corridor, but it doesn't run very often. Especially there's a very long gap in the middle of the day. And I like riding BART down to Fremont, and there's a bus service that VTA runs, and the bus service is fine. But it's hard sitting in traffic. I don't have a car. I can drive. I could rent a Tesla and go out on the I-5 and take it out for a spin. But I don't like sitting in traffic and dealing with parking. So this system has equity for me. I'm a person of modest means, and I'm a disabled, service-disabled Army veteran of Operation Desert Storm. This system will make things easier for me. And yes, it's an extension, but the 7-line extension in New York made things easier for me to get to Hudson Yards, and we're looking at a new 7th Avenue subway. So I leave with this. This rail line is not just about building a new extension, but it is part of the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do not have any more requests to speak. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we're going to close the public speaker section right there, and we're moving on to item number 3, which is the cool piece I think we wanted to get to, which is an update on VTA BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 Extension Project. Paco Salpeas, the BART Silicon Valley Extension Project Chief, and Carl Holmes, the Assistant General Manager in Design and Construction, are going to give us an extremely informative update on what's going on. So I'm going to pass it to you guys.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, directors. I am here at Building A at VTA River Oaks headquarters, and my colleague Carl Holmes is next to me, so that we're going to take you through quickly and be open to any questions you may have. I will go straight to page 4, Elaine. You all know that we started in July. After the 4th of July, we start the Design Review Committee, Executive Committee, members from VTA, from BART, but we had the outside agencies, the City of San Jose, the City of Santa Clara, and so on. We started sharing with the public in hundreds of meetings and provided digital access to everybody. But I'm very pleased to tell you that some 2,000 comments we have received, and people really participated in making phone calls and so on to give us their comments and everything. And right now, Elaine, you jump. Elaine, please, right there. Here. And one more page, Elaine. The next one, please. Which has that one. You can see it. This is tremendous participation. And we got some very, very good feedback. But what we're going to do now, we're going to continue. We have, I think, 2 more meetings in October. And then at the end of October, the process is terminating. We're going to take everything we got. We're going to put them in front of us in the drawing board and start working on our drawings to get them ready for next spring, when we believe when our schedule shows they have to be done. Elaine, next page, please. I think Bob Powers alluded already, and Caroline, and this is a major accomplishment between the 2 agencies, and of course I acknowledge my colleague and friend Carl Holmes, but without Bob Powers' leadership and Shane Edwards, we won't be where we are today. 70 specs needed in full detail in order to be put out to the contracting community with the contract documents. For Carl Holmes, he will take you through a few minutes on this one. Carl.
So thank you, Todd. This is Carl Holmes for AGM Design and Construction. This is, while we're not completely finished with this effort, we're averaging about 98% complete. You can see the progress for each of the 4 contract packages. The systems contract was 97% complete. For the tunnel and track work, we're at 100% complete. The Newhall Yard, we're 94% complete, and then the underground station, we're at 100% complete. This has been an effort, I can say many months and probably at least a year of effort and collaboration to make sure that we have a package that gives guidance to the design build teams on what to expect in order to provide bids as a design builder. Some of the items that are going to be part of phase 2 are not currently in our standard. So we had to make sure that we get the right design guidance so that the bidders have something to they can plan and look at what to how to propose to be considered as a selected contractor. You can go to the next slide.
Carl, you should talk about that. That's another next.
The next one. This slide is the fire life safety. So we have made significant progress on the fire life safety efforts. As you can see on the slide, we have resolved all the issues that have been outstanding. And I need to say a little bit about the committee. So the committee is comprised of, it's a joint committee, and it's comprised of BART employees, BART consultants, as well as VTA employees and consultants. And then also we have voting representation from San Jose Fire Department, as well as the Santa Clara Fire Department. And so I'm going to mention some of the names just so that you can just to add context. So Tom Maloney, he's the BART representative. He's actually the chairperson. Susan Lucero is VTA, and she is the co-chairperson. Frank Lucarelli is representing VTA Security. Sam Hoffman is BART Mechanical Engineering. Mark Davis, he is BART Protection Engineering Consultant representing BART. Jake Tomlin is the Santa Clara Fire Department representative. Arthur Belton is the San Jose Fire Department representative. And Krishna Davi representing VTA. There are a couple other individuals that are representing VTA, Ken Denmead and Golzar Ahmed. But then there are 4 CPUC representatives that are not voting members, but they're also part of the committee. And so Rupa, Chitole, Daniel Kwok, Stephen Espinal, and Stephen Artis. So I just wanted to provide that context so that you're not just hearing that the committee has resolved issues. You can at least have a better background and context on who is on that committee. There's been a number of meetings where items have been reviewed, researched, debated, but at this point we have reached a point where there's no exceptions taken on the outstanding issues, and even CPUC has stated that they're pleased with the progress that we have today.
Right.
Next slide.
Okay, Elaine, next slide, please. I would like to update you a little bit now of the project progress in terms of approval from the federal government. On September 21st, we got notified by FDA that the project has been approved, selected. I will use the word approved in my mind, but some people use selected. Have been selected, and FDA intends to fund this project up to 25% of the total project budget, and they gave us a pre-award construction authority started at September 21st, which indicates I believe the strength of the project, but also the support the 2 agencies receiving, that go ahead and proceed with this project. We committed to up to 25%, and that's where we are now. It's not going to issue a FFGA for a major project like this in the next few days. For that, they provided the information to Congress, and by congressional policy, Congress has 30 days to notify us whether or not have any objections on the FDA intent to fund the project and proceed accordingly. And today we are down to 3 working days from Congress. I believe it's October 21st when we're going to hear officially from FDA. And so far, we haven't heard any negativities and so on. For that, then, assuming everything will go as planned, FDA, that's a major breakthrough, like Carl alluded, says now go to work here. You guys do a mega project, a major project, a unique project. Go ahead and get your bids in, get your construction bids in, and you have 2 years. And when you get your bids in and you have your final budget established, then we're going to execute a full funding agreement for you guys to go ahead and finish the project. Next page, please. This is the page I update the VTA Board of Directors every month. This is the 4 contracts you already heard. We have the systems contract is already on the street, and we're going to start now the process with the contractors. They review the draft. We edited. We consider the comments. We have another draft. It's a special group of BART and VTA staff working together on that. And then it's the tunnel contract. That's already on the street. We had series of one-on-ones with the major contractors. We are optimistic, confident that coming in the spring of 2022, we will take this contract before the board of directors at VTA to approve it. And then to award it, that means. And then the new whole yard, the Santa Clara station, good progress there. like Carl said, it's not easy to get two major agencies to work together and finish a yard, for example. My God, there are a lot of astrophysics behind the yard. I even forgot some of them. For that, we're almost there, and we're moving now with the work on it to get our contract documents out, and we are expecting to bring this contract in front of the board sometime in the summer of 23. And the last but not least is our stations contract. And the stations contract, I already briefed you, is going through the public input now. We're going to finish with the public sometime at the end of this year. October is when the process terminates, and we're going to get more refinements on the different designs and so on. For that, then the next page, Elaine, it's our schedule. You have seen that schedule. I brief our board of directors at VTA here monthly on this schedule, updated as I get information. So far, the only update to this schedule is the tunneling contractors. They requesting a few more months to be added. So that we entertain the first input from them to add 6 months. I don't know, we may have to add another 3, 4, 6 months. I don't know yet. But as soon as we know, we update that schedule. The federal government monitors this. CPUC monitors everybody is on this schedule. Well, that is my presentation, Carl. I don't know if you have any.
So I'd just like to say one more thing. I want to emphasize that the BART involvement on this project is not just completing the design criteria manuals. BART is involved along the way throughout the different procurement stages. So we have representation that is participating in industry meetings, so with the potential bidders, as well as involved in reviewing the responses to the RFQs and the RFPs, and also participating on the evaluation panels. So BART is part of the process. It's not just creating and working through the design criteria. And thank you, Takis, for to facilitate that collaboration. And so again, we feel good about where we are today.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else. I'm open to any questions you and your colleagues from BART may have.
Okay, Takis and Carl, thanks a lot for that update. To my colleagues, before we go to any of our comments or questions, I'm going to go ahead and see if we have any public comments first, and then we'll come back to us. So, Elaine, do you want to go ahead and do our public commenters, please?
Yes, Chair. The first public speaker would be Alida, and then will be followed by Tessa. Alida, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Glenn Hendricks. Alida Dupree for the record, she and her. Good update. I'm happy to see that things are getting moving. Hopefully we'll get through this congressional period. Then we can, I hope, see a direct deposit. And we can start to get some work going. And I say direct deposit because I don't use checks anymore. That's in my vocabulary. So let's get that direct deposit and start doing some of this hard construction, etc. And we have to stay the course. I do support the whole build out to Santa Clara because, one, we need the yard space. We have to have places to put our trains. There's not a lot of space in New York City, and they got to put, I think it's up to 6,700 rail cars. And also, Caltrain only runs once an hour. Don't get me wrong, I love Caltrain. I speak at their meetings, and they're going to have an electric system. But BART runs every 15 minutes. That will make it easier for me to get to Santa Clara. The South Bay is not just about downtown San Jose, but there are many communities. Just like the 7 extension in New York is not just about serving a large development called Hudson Yards, but there are many thousands of people who live to the south, people of modest means in various apartment complexes. So I see equity in this. The people of East Harlem have been waiting for the 2nd Avenue subway for decades. So people in Santa Clara, people who want to go to Santa Clara like myself, who don't have cars, this is about having a sense of tying the system together. So stay the course with this. I want to see this happen. BART is a greenhouse gas-free railroad. But more than that, it is the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next three speakers would be Tessa, followed by Claire, then Roland. Tessa, please begin speaking when you're ready. Tessa?
Yes, thank you. Well, we spend a lot of tax dollars, our state tax dollars, to expand the Hayward equipment maintenance yard. We just expanded it and everything. Maintenance yards are really ugly, and there's nothing green about a maintenance yard. And anyway, and then we can easily bring the trains back up to Hayward, and that's the situation. And to spend $1 billion when and also the fact that it's going underground, digging a tunnel under Stockton Avenue, to do that, and to the amount of cement that we're using, and cement is a very high greenhouse gas, and then to say it's all greenhouse gas free is not true either, because our electrical system isn't purely all green either, and we're seeing the problems of our limitations on our electrical grid, and that the fact that it even is a grid is the problem. That is what's caused our problems with our fires is the transmission line. So we don't have a green system, and on top of that, the problems of the issue downtown, where we have to do the stacked issue, because we don't want to have problems with downtown. And downtown Santa Clara needs to be car free, and these issues that the cars are not going to that we're going to have problems, and the whole downtown being controlling of this, where we have to stop looking at economics and politics and only deal with physics and engineering. And what the physics are in terms of our climate crisis is the amount of CO2 that we're using and we're emitting. And that's a lot of it from the cement of this operation, and a lot of it from the fossil fuels in general to build this. And so, and to do it wrong just for commerce is wrong. We have to do it for the climate.
Claire, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Claire Beekman here. As this agenda item covers a lot of ground, hopefully these words can be part of that process. With the possibility of wildfires, sea level rise, and a large Bay Area earthquake that is possible in the next few years and decades, I feel it is important to create good practices from our good ideals now. This can put us in a much better position to return to our good ideals and regular good community practices much sooner as a community after any possible upcoming Bay Area natural disasters. These are our good practices of human rights, workers' rights, civil protections, and open democratic practices and policies now that can be of help with concepts like housing rights, wage theft issues, open public policy ideas, and green renewable energy ideas in its local procurement process. To speak about procurement ideas, that's also a part of this issue. We're headed towards a new era of how to better talk about the future of data collection. I use the ALPR models and consumer ideas of ALPR use as good examples of a future that's possible of open democratic practices, civil rights, and civil protections that creates kind of just our better ideals, our better selves, and it creates more efficient, better practices from that. ALPR consumer data used to be over a year at a time. Its data collection would be. That has come down to 6 months to 3 months. So it's our good ideals and practices that can help the procurement process in our future, and it's to have good foundation in civil rights, civil protection ideas. If we consider these things now, it can help the procurement process in really interesting ways, and with the current AI questions as well. Good luck in all the ways you'll be addressing this item. Thank you.
Next speaker is Roland. Please begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I'd like to do is to briefly go over the attachment in your email and walk you through it. So I already mentioned the equity issues. We're increasing value captures because now we can build above the stations. We're reducing the risk by breaking up the tunnel contract into 3 separate tunnel contracts. reducing the cost and phased implementation of station entrances. So let me walk you through it very quickly. What we did is we built on the presentation that you were given last April, known as concept number 2, which had the twin balls between Berryessa and 13th Street. And so starting at Santa Clara, what we're doing is we switched to twin balls between New Hall and the Beaverton station. And then what we do is we use the station box that is actually part of the disc, and we use that to switch from twin ball to a single ball, but not 48. We switch into a 56-ball tunnel for 1.5 miles. So that goes to downtown. You know how that goes. You get entrances on both sides of the street. So that's what all these slides are. And then we show you what the concourse looks like in the tunnel crown. That's got entrances both on east and west of Santa Clara. But then the best part is, as we carry on with this 56-foot single ball to 13th Street, we now have basically at no cost the opportunity of having a replica station of 13th Street. The only ground impact is the shaft that allows us to switch back to twin ball and take it through 28th Street and back to the Las Plumas portal just south of Berryessa. Thank you.
Okay, I think that was the last of our public comments. I'm going to close the public comment section right there, and I'm going to come back to my colleagues. And by colleagues, I'm meaning on both the VTA and the BART side. And if we go ahead and, if you just go ahead and raise your hands, we'll just go through. And it looks like Director Rayburn is buzzed in first.
Thank you, Chair Hendricks. Congratulations on reaching a monumental milestone with the letter of intent. This is something that allows this project to move forward. I'm also grateful to see that the Fire Life Safety Committee has reached a record of decision and has carefully reviewed particularly the tunnel and the station access. Carolyn probably recalls several years ago that my constant appeal has been with regard to the two downtown stations. The platform configuration in the tunnel is shown on page 8 of this presentation. And the question I have, and what I want to see happen, is, of course, access on both sides of the street. And I think that there might be an opportunity. As I understand, these two downtown stations will have emergency stair access at both ends of the platform. Each one, I believe, to carry 50% of the projected load on the platform. Is that correct?
I'm sure one of our staff is going to jump in with an answer here. Want to talk to us or Carl?
Yeah, we can. Director Rayburn, did you say 50% on the emergency stairwell? Is that what?
The emergency stairwells at the ends of the platform would be sized to accommodate half of the platform load.
I need to check that. The stairwells, they meet the NFPA 130 criteria, which regarding volume and speed of evacuation. But we can, Carl, you can check that.
We can confirm that, Director Rayburn, but I don't believe that it's sized to capture half of the load. But we can take an action to come back. But you are correct that there are egress points at either side of the platform.
Well, the point I would like to make, and would be that if we're building these additional emergency access, could we see that one of them crosses under the street and could be expanded in the future to include an escalator and provide access. That's the simple request that I'm looking for here.
I understand you better now. The downtown station for the city of San Jose, it has a provision built in already with the knockout panels to allow for the future project to do the southern entrance. That's what we call it, the southern entrance. We already have two entrances, as you know, on the northern end. And our board last year talked about that, and we committed that we're gonna have not to preclude accommodations, my word for knockout panels, and a new project, it will be put together soon because it has to be environmentally clear, which is not part of this project, and we're gonna proceed later on with the southern entrance. You have the BART staff have the plan showing the knockout panels inside.
But that doesn't include the Diridon station.
Yes, the southern entrance is there.
And so, again, my request is that from the fire life safety report, if there's emergency access stairs that are sized to the capacity of the platform load, then and Diridon is going to be more or less a duplicate of the downtown station. And could those emergency stairs, or one of them, provide future access that's permanent, not just emergency?
We can look into that. I believe that they're specific for fire exits, but we can look into that and verify.
You know, they're obligated to provide those fire exits. You know.
Okay, looks like that was the questions from Director Rayburn. I'm going to go ahead and go to Director Ames.
Thank you. To piggyback off of Director Rayburn's ideas, I'm just thinking about how we can get these additional amenities that are so crucial to the success of the project. Obviously, we want to see this happen. I actually went to San Jose State and wished BART was there. And I took Diridon many times. Caltrain station, had to, just try to get around the bay. It was very difficult. So I'm very excited about this project for so many years, decades. But just to go back to trying to get these critical components like access on both sides, I think about, when we're getting these bids from contractors, I had asked about, do we have innovation clauses to try to reduce the cost of the project? Also, the innovations could be, as to kind of allude to what Director Rayburn is saying, maybe we can get an extra escalator on one side of the station. So these kind of innovations that the bidders can provide, is this part of the RFP process?
Yes, the answer to your question is yes. Innovation requirements, in our language, Director Ames, we call them ATCs, alternative technical concepts. They are obligated to provide this, and we have to evaluate them, and we have to make the decision whether or not A, constitute innovation, B, constitute equivalent to our project. Remember, somebody can come and offer as innovation something, which maybe is not part of the criteria we were talking. But yes, the quick answer to your question is yes, and we very well focus on this.
Okay, because we've got Roland saying there's ways to cut costs. I appreciate these ideas. So I would hope that the bidders are going to be thinking this way when they're coming up with these tunnel ideas. I know going to double bore or single bore is a stretch, but again, I get a lot of comments. I even got calls last night about this. It's pretty consistent. They want to know how we got from twin bore to single bore. What's the cost of that compared to single bore? And they keep going back and questioning the project cost and the constructability methods. And I'm hopeful that, Takis, I thought you were going to come up with some kind of, well, I don't want to call value engineering, but constructability analysis that showed why the cost of single bore was the best decision. I'm just going to pin that.
Yeah. Director Ames, I'm not too sure. Carl probably remembers better. All these things will be addressed publicly, single versus twin bore, before my time, as you know, back in 2017. And there is a body of work submitted to the county, to the federal government, of course, to us, BART and VTA. It's nothing new. That thing. What's the year?
So Director Ames, Takis and I talked about this a little bit more this morning, and we'll put together. There are documents that have been provided to respond to different questions, and so instead of trying to create something, we'll look at what's already been created and provided, and have that as a document for the record. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. This constant, continuous battle over the cost of the project, I guess it will always go on because the project's so expensive. And so the last comment I have is, well, I have two comments. So are we going to include construction inflation in the RFP or in the bids that we receive? Will we know we'll have the full construction inflation, full cost of the project?
Yeah, Carl told me you were asking that question. Here's three answers very quickly to that. We have an ongoing study using outside brains like UCLA, Anderson School, and so on. We call it saturation study. That is market. They study the market and they tell us all the different things in the market. The second thing, our VTA Board of Directors has executed the PLA. A PLA for all the labor which is going to work in this project. PLA has provisions of capping extraordinary cost and all this stuff. For that, from the labor point of view, PLA is a good document to have and a good agreement to have in place. And the number three item is that Director Ames, as you know, the commodities percentage on a construction cost, which have the tendency to go high, very low, it's only 25% of the whole project. And within these commodities, there are some items which can fluctuate lower and others higher. For that, what we have done, we've worked with the bidders and we develop a special section in the contract called a cost escalation section. And it's very articulate, following the industry indices. Well, I'll give you an example. If the drywall, we don't do a lot of drywall in heavy rail, but if the drywall, we have a price of $4.50 the square foot, if you like it. I'm hypothesizing. Now, the indices, following the index, if that becomes $9, $6, or a big number, the contract allows for this conversation. At the same time, it becomes $2.50, the de-escalation becomes so. For that, the answer to your question is, yes, there is a language. We follow the state of California price escalation methodology, have been reviewed with, of course, all the attorneys, and have been reviewed with the bidders, and it seems we have got an approval to include it, and it's included in our contract.
Well, thank you, Takis, because this happened to me before when steel prices went up and then the project went out of control on the cost.
Yep.
So, I appreciate you bringing that up with that clause in there that you can actually talk about escalation of commodities, and it's only 25% of the total project. So
60% is labor, as you know, and the rest is equipment. For that,
okay.
Pressure to us is on the 20. But your point is very well taken, and very, very well taken. We're very focused on that.
Okay, Takis. And then finally, when the bids come in, they're over our estimate. This is another comment I got last night. So if the bids come in over the estimate, and how, just if this happens. How will FTA address potentially costs coming in over what we think the project will come in at?
As I said here, that FDA is working very close with us, more close than we ever dreamed. But they are very close with 7 people, project management oversight, CPUC involved, everybody's involved. And then on top of it, they have FOMC, Financial Management Oversight Contractor. But 3 entities from the FDA watching this first. Now, directly to your question. FDA says, we are not going to obligate you, VTA, to enter to FFGA today. What we like you to continue working with BART, get your bids in, tell us what the budget is, establish your budget, and then we will work with you to establish the overall project budget. And at the meantime, we commit 25% of whichever budget you have. And they provide, a range to the different things and so on. Because director and you're an engineer, all these things are probabilistic. People say, oh my God, the gas is $6 a gallon. Well, it can be $1.60 2 years from now. You know what I mean? For that, FDA, I am very pleased the way FDA is treating us. I mean, to give us 2 years to see our bids, nobody else in the rail business ever opened bids and take the price and establish the budget in order to get an FFGA. This is a major, you would say, Carl?
Yeah, and it's a benefit of the expedited project delivery. So it allows for that flexibility to basically keep the project moving forward and get the bids, and then actually reconcile that with the process.
Okay, well, this is good news. The concern is if the bids come in higher, there's going to be a funding gap, and how is that going to work? How will that work with us, which you've explained. I know you don't have the number in hand until next summer, but it's good to know we have a great relationship with FTA and they're flexible in this regard, because we don't know really how the bids are going to come in. We have our estimates, but I appreciate the innovation clauses and the estimates that you've prepared, and I hope that the design build teams can be innovative, and I say go forth. I'm very excited about this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to move next to Director McPartland.
Thank you very much. I'm going to end up, and thank you, Liz, for getting into the nuts and bolts on that kind of stuff. I'm going to start off, I've got only 2 issues, and both of them are kind of onerous. I want to end up backing up Director Rayburn from the perspective of the safety issue of having street access on both sides of the street of the downtown station. And from that perspective, and a conversation that I had started with in the board meeting that we had yesterday, and then followed up with a conversation with Carl Holmes last night, in regards to the exiting on both sides of the street. The way it stands right now is that provisions will be made to do that sometime in the future. Can we end up digging into that just a little bit deeper, where we'll have access? And the reason I say this, let me go ahead and kind of lay out my experience and perspective on this, is that if we end up digging the hole, and all we have to do is open the door and get to the other side of the street for public safety on the main street at the downtown station, that's one thing. If we end up planning on doing it in another project at a later date, that becomes, from a practical standpoint and from a political standpoint and from a public standpoint, problematic at a major level, simply because having worked with BART before I became an employee when I was in the fire service, and seeing the streets torn up in downtown Oakland literally for years in order to be able to make that happen. To try to do something like that after the fact would probably, and I jokingly made a gentleman's bet for a bottle of beer if both of us are alive when this happens at some time in the future, is that if the next generation of leaders at VTA in San Jose and BART end up having to negotiate this at some time in the future, they'll say, oh, what the hell, well, let's do it like Las Vegas and we'll just put a bridge. And that'll end up disrupting things a lot less and be a lot cheaper. So can anybody tell me whether what the plans specifically are in order to lay the groundwork in order for being able to get the public to the other side of the street?
So for the downtown San Jose station, there is a plan for a knockout panel for a future project to cross over to the other side of the street. That will need to be environmentally cleared as well as a separate project working with the city of San Jose. With the Girodon station, there has been feedback from SCP as well as other stakeholders that having a station entrance on the other side of the street is not desirable. When they have events at SCP, they close down Santa Clara Street, and there's a big push to get people out of the event center. And so moving forward with Girodon is not the priority in regards to the knockout panel, but there is the priority instead is working on the intermodal station and trying to make sure that there's a way to connect the BART station at Girodon with the intermodal station. Whether or not that's below ground or above ground, that's yet to be seen. But that's where it stands with this project relative to making that connection to the other side of the street.
Okay. For our conversation last night, Carl, on the knockout panel, can you tell me in more concrete terms, is that just going to be a panel where you open it up and then you've got a wall of dirt in front of you and you still have to dig the hole, or is that going to be the hole's already there and all you have to do is put in the walkway and you're done?
No, we are doing the cavity now here at the Macpara. This is Takis. We're doing the whole the cavity now, and we're gonna put the false walls there to be ready to knock out inside. It's the design criteria from Washington Metro. Yeah.
That was the answer that I was hoping for. And Carl, I owe you a beer.
Okay, to me too.
Okay. What the hell? Let's get together and I'll buy a pitcher.
We can catch up with you.
Okay. The second issue is somewhat more onerous. It's going to end up being the vertical versus the side-by-side configuration that's going to go from the 13th Street ventilation facility to the Stockton ventilation facility. And I'm going to give BART the benefit of the doubt of being responsible for 50% of the communication, and I'll take the other responsibility for the other half. But I was under the impression I was going to be on the Fire and Life Safety Committee so that I could end up dealing in nuts and bolts with this issue as I've done in the past. And I'm not going to bore this group with down to that level of detail, but looking at it from the standpoint that I thought I was going to end up being on the Fire and Life Safety Committee, and I didn't find out that until I ended up seeing this slide yesterday. And I've been ill, so a briefing that was scheduled a few days before that I wasn't able to make. I was kind of surprised because I thought that I was going to be involved in the process, at least to watch and ask questions, and I never had that opportunity. In my conversation that I ended up having with Carl last night, as we dug into this a little bit deeper, he assured me that that I'd been given communication that identified that no, they were going to keep it professional. They weren't going to end up having a politician in the process. And I can understand that, having been on the other side of that equation. But that I would be updated, except that I never got any updates. And what hit me yesterday was somewhat of a surprise. So my position on this right now is that was it given adequate and wasn't given appropriate consideration for my concerns in relationship to life safety that I've expressed in the past. And I was assured that the committee had fire protection engineers, Mark Davis from BART, and also fire protection engineers. I asked whether we had fire protection engineers in San Jose and Santa Clara Fire Department, and I said, told it yes. And they have participated in that, and this is the configuration that's been approved. Having said that, I reserve my judgment until I have the opportunity to talk to those fire protection engineers, and I'd like to have BART set that up for me at the earliest possible, along with the San Jose Fire Department, so that I can end up having that conversation, because I still have concerns about the safety. And that concludes my comments. The amount of work that jointly has been put in between the board, this body right here, as well as VTA and BART, is absolutely astronomical. And I want to end up thanking everybody for all the work that you've done, especially the ability to work effectively together, because we had some fits and starts at the beginning. And I'm really heartened by where we are now in comparison to where we were in the not too distant past. So thank you very much for everything that everybody has done. And that concludes my comment.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Director. I think I saw Mayor Liccardo's flash across the screen, so maybe your hand's not. Did you want to speak next, Sam?
No, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Okay. Then I'm going to go to Director Perales.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say I appreciate the BART director's enthusiasm and encouragement for the south entrance, especially in the downtown core. That's something I've been advocating for, and thank you, staff, for your answer on that. We want to make sure that that is a reality, and so we need to do as much as possible to ensure that is what becomes a reality, and not, I think, simply for just fire life safety. I think that's a core element of it, but just really the ease and access of getting into and out of the station there. I think people will expect that, and we should expect that of ourselves, to really create the best entrance and exits possible, and not really rely on just the northern end of the street there. And appreciate again the BART directors, and I'm happy to join Mr. McPartland in that picture, and I'll happily pay my share as well. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Are there any other directors that would like to make a comment? I don't see any other hands. I don't know if anybody has any challenges. Back to Director Ames.
Well, this is something I've been wondering about for a while. I keep forgetting to ask it. So, how is this system going to connect to the San Jose airport? Because I think about BART, and historically, I don't know what happened, but the Oakland airport connection seemed to be an afterthought. And we have a great system. It works. I don't think a lot of people realize how amazing the system connectivity is from the Coliseum station to the airport. But I wish it was used more. But what is the vision for San Jose? Because, of course, we're all concerned about ridership. There's a hybrid model out there. So the better connectivity with all these different transportation systems, the Grand Central Station of the West is what I think the mayor had reported. This is what we want in San Jose, and that includes the airport connectivity. So I'm hopeful that we can maybe get some information on that at some point. Maybe that they think this is a sidebar conversation, but I think it's important to show all the connections in the future so we can get a feel of, this is the right route, and this is how it's all going to flow into San Jose, the traffic. The pedestrian commuters.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate for me to try to respond to that?
Sure.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate the question very much. We're issuing an RFP
in the next couple of months for an airport connector, and we've been in conversations through RFIs now, and very public conversations about alternative technologies that can get us from Jordan Station to the airport. I appreciate the question very much. We think we have a lot of private sector interest for private-public partnership to basically get that 2 miles connected, and ultimately we're working hard on trying to ensure we have a seamless connection into Jordan Station from the airport.
I guess I just don't know how it's going to be connected. Maybe we can have Cindy's got
Yeah, this would likely be, well, I don't want to get out in front of the engineers, so I won't do that. But I think that is a really important challenge for all of us to keep thinking about as we design the larger station, because as it is now, I think in view of many urbanists who are looking at this, believe that BART is not sufficiently proximate to some of the other connections on transit as well as it is now. And so this is something we're going to have to continue to iterate through station design, but I'll stop talking.
So, Sam, what it makes sense is that, because this is, there's a timing thing here a little bit, maybe we could put this on the list for future agenda items as there's more clarity to what's being done.
Yeah, maybe we can bring on some folks who've been working on that project. That'd be great.
So I think that might be like that, rather than trying to, if we're not quite ready to do it now, let's make sure we get it penned onto a future agenda so we can go ahead and do that.
Chairperson Hendricks, if I may, Carl.
Sure, Carl.
So it's hard for me to just leave some comments unaddressed. So I just want to say that I will take another action to continue separate briefings with Director McFarland. I have conducted separate briefings in the past, not just with myself, but with others, including our fire protection engineer, and also one or two including pockets. So we just reached the milestone with the Fire Life Safety Committee executing a memo, and that was last week, I believe, October. So it's fairly new in terms of this milestone. So unfortunately, we were not able to have a briefing with Director McFarland, but I just want to put on record that we will continue to do that, and that even in previous meetings, we were clear that the committee would be staff only, not elected officials, but that we would brief anyone that wanted to have that update. So I just on record want to put on that we will continue to do that with Director McFarland, and understand we need to have time to review the memo that we just sent him last night.
Okay. Great.
And I appreciate that, Colin. I've got it in front of me right now. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other? So it looks like we've got Director Rayburn raising his physical hand for us.
Yes. Sorry, I don't have the little button at the bottom.
It's all good. It's all good.
Could the fire life safety record of decision document be made part of the public record?
I don't see any problem with it, but we'll verify with District Secretary and our legal department to make sure.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from any of the directors that they'd like to make? And if you can't get your virtual hand up, just go ahead and speak up.
Congratulations on all the work that's been done. It cannot be overstated how much work has gone into this for all the stakeholders, and I am extremely grateful for all the work that's been done.
Thank you, Director McFarland, because I was going to go ahead and I was going to make a couple of comments myself. And the first one was I wanted to thank everybody, just like what you did, for all the work that's gone in so far to get us to where we are. The other part that I'm actually very encouraged of, and I'm sorry I'm going to be trying very positive like Bob was earlier. I think there's tremendous amount of work that's being done, but the collaboration that's going on between VTA, BART, FTA, and all the other people that are involved here. I have no illusions that there's not going to be some hiccups and bumps in the road and future challenges that we have. But I'm encouraged by the collaborative effort of what's going on between the teams. Because that's what's going to let us get through the unknown problems we don't know of. And I really think that that's positive and is very encouraging for what's going on. Before I close this out, just ask my colleagues if there's any last comments or questions. Well, I think the real direction is to the staff is go forth, multiply, and just make it happen and achieve great success for us all, and sooner rather than later. So I'm going to go ahead and end that item right there. This takes us to item 5, which is announcements. And do any of my colleagues have anything they'd like to announce? Oh, wait, excuse me. I think I messed up. We closed item 3. I'm going to item 4, which is topics for future meetings. And I think we've already heard one is we'd like to add into the list about airport connector to San Jose. So I'm sure staff has written that down. Does anybody have any other future topics they'd like to have addressed? And this is just right now. We can always add to the list in the future. Any comments by anyone? My colleagues? I'm going to go ahead. You guys can keep your thinking caps on with that one. Let's go ahead and do public comment on this. So, Elaine, could you let our public speakers in on this?
Yes. The order of speakers will be Tessa, followed by Blair, then Roland. Tessa, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Yes. I guess I wanted to comment in regards to the fire safety issue that other members of our neighborhood in here in San Jose have been discussing. They call it Rosie. They talk about things under this video that they've been making with Rosie, and it's very helpful. I hope you guys get to see it because it's been informative to me about the concern in terms of safety. And this already was there when we were talking about the single bore with stacked trains and the depth of it and stuff like that. But there's a lot. So and then it's a concern to hear that the person McPartland who's so involved with fire was not even engaged. So that's a concern. And so, but getting back to the going smaller of this whole project. I think that the real issue in terms of looking at not economics and politics, but our physics and engineering that our climate crisis demands is that we have to degrow to reduce our emissions, and that is we're supposed to do that by in order to avoid catastrophic climate crisis 50% by in the next 8 years, and so we're not doing that. It's all going up. And then there's all this, myth about, everything is green, and it's all blah, blah, blah. So, and it's no action, and that we need to take the action to reduce. And that is where, to make this more a human scale project, to reduce it down in half is what I say, and what the science is. And that we need to make it a more human scale project of, and actually even people aren't even wanting to use the BART, to go underground, to be together. We're seeing the reduction in public transit. So we really need to really rethink all of it and reduce our...
Okay, thank you. And as we go to our next speakers, I just remind the topic we're on right now is possible items for future meetings.
Thank you, Chair. Blair, please begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thank you for the meeting. I guess first off, I hope you can be considering with the future of airport connector issues. That may be a good place to be considering how to experiment with AV technology. And I think it would be a much more interesting use and experimenting of AV technology on the underground system compared with trying to take it up to the light rail system. And I hope we can leave the light rail alone and bring back its good positive practices, and we can learn to study different transportation routes that can centralize the light rail system better for the future of Santa Clara County. And transportation routes can work as hubs around the light rail. Anything to think of positivity for the future of the light rail is important at this time, and hopefully this can be of help. I hope you can better be considering natural disaster preparedness ideas. I was hoping that you would talk about these things more in this meeting. That didn't happen, but that's okay. I just hope you can do that. I hope you can be considering that with the future of eminent domain issues, that You work well with the people and property involved, and you work to their advantage. Good luck how you can do that. And to conclude, I think I heard that you want to create a second BART opening in the downtown area, which was a lot of relief to myself. I only thought there was the one opening in the new high-rise complex that you were building. And I have the feeling that that's a bit guarded and it's a bit inaccessible to everyday public. I feel there could be a future of BART that its fares will be much more open to everyday people and not so expensive. And so I don't think the future building in the downtown area should be exclusive and cut out people.
Thank you, Blair. Next speaker is Roland. Please begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got 4 items for your consideration. So we discussed funding alternatives. I'd like to bring to your attention that normally large tunnels, whenever possible, are broken into multiple sections. As an example, a crossway which is 12 miles of twin boat with a total 25 miles of tunneling was broken up into 8 different tunnel contracts. And they managed to tunnel the entire 12 miles in approximately 2 years. Also, I suggest you go and look into the background. People are currently working on this project. LinkedIn is a good place to start. Now, what I'd like to also suggest is that you perform a complete audit of the phase 1 costs, both reported and unreported. It's approximately $2.5 billion each way. I also like you to review the funding plan, how we go about funding this project, including the debt capacity of both Measure B and Measure A, and Measure A in particular, because I believe the debt capacity of Measure A has been exhausted. With regards to the airport, most international airports have a high-speed rail station at the airport right there. So a proposal is very simple. It's been on the table for 10 years. Is to have a high-speed rail station near Coleman on the west side of the airport. If you look in Southern California, that's exactly what Burbank is doing. The Metrolink station is on the east side, but they are putting the high-speed rail station on the west side. Not on that, they're moving the terminals at the same time. We don't have to move any terminals at the airport if we got a people mover, and eventually we've got to be realistic. The airport will extend to the west side. Thank you.
Next speaker is Abida. Please begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Glenn Hendricks. Alita Dupree for the record, she and her. I'm going to talk about the item that was mentioned in this category about airports. And I don't know much about the San Jose airport, but I think that airport connectivity is essential. And I've flown into Oakland and I've used the connector. It's okay, but I wish we just had the BART trains go straight to it like they do in San Francisco. And as part of welcoming people to any city, we want to be welcomed with a seamless, user-friendly, and safe experience. Some cities, it's very easy. You go to Denver and you have the A line. Seattle has a light rail, and soon we're going to have a Washington Metro to Dulles. But yet in New York, there are several different things. You have to take a bus to LaGuardia. Las Vegas Airport, one of the busiest in the world. There's no rail to it at all. You have to take a bus or own a car. And so I don't know what a connection from BART to the airport is going to look like. So I'd like to see it, because any kind of transportation should have a seamless experience. TSA PreCheck makes things easier. It's nice when you're a Southwest A-list member that you can go through a different line to check your bags. And I mean, all airlines basically have things like that. They have kiosks and self-tagging and lots of things to try to make the airport experience better. So I ask and challenge you to have a mandate to ensure that the airport is served both for the travelers and also for airport employees, and contractors, and visitors. Because that is part of what the people system is all about. Thank you.
Okay, that was the last of our public speakers, so we'll close the public speaker section. And before I go here, just want to check back with my colleagues if they have any other thoughts for future topics, and obviously you guys can work with your staffs if things come up in the future.
I do have one thing that I would like to add since we're getting ready to wrap this up, and that is that as far as the folks on the VTA staff are concerned, could you please do me a favor and give a personal hello to Frank Lucarelli when you see him for me, because I miss having the opportunity to work with him.
Okay, thanks. We'll make sure that gets done. Okay, I'm going to close section 4. That moves on to section 5, which is announcements. Do any of my colleagues have any comment or announcements they'd like to make? I'm not seeing any. This section doesn't have public comments, so we're going to not have that. And I'm going to move here to the adjournment. And before I actually adjourn, I just wanted to go back and check with either Bob or Carolyn if they had any closing thoughts they wanted to go ahead and add. You're not required to, but I just wanted to check with you guys before we close. Either of you?
Chairperson, I would thank you for your leadership on this committee, working through the topics and getting the information out there. It's much appreciated, and just look forward to, following up on, whenever the next one of these meetings is scheduled under your leadership here. So thanks for that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I just want to say, we're going to have a lot of movement over the next, probably from the time this meeting goes to the time we have our next meeting. So, we'll try to continue to keep you briefed during that time frame so that you're well aware of what's going on. Things are moving quickly, as you heard from the staff today. So I really do want to thank Takas and Carl and their teams because they will be quite busy going forward, and we will keep you informed. And thank you for your leadership.
Okay, great. Thanks. I think we're going to go ahead and adjourn. Again, thanks, everybody. Thank you to the teams, and not just Takas and Carl, but everybody else that's down in the dirt and really getting stuff done. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn today's meeting at 10:33. Everybody have a good weekend and stay safe out there. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. We will end the meeting for all now.